10 years later, I was in the same room with my family for the first time, but they didn't know it. Brooklyn Davis's little cooking hobby was now New York's most prestigious restaurant. I watched them from behind the kitchen, my mother, my father, and my siblings, who had never called me. Their hands were shaking. When my waiter approached their table, it was time to leave the stubbornness and pain of the past behind. The words, "The chef wants to see you," would change everything. But before I tell you this story, you need to know how I got here. Because this isn't just a success story, it's a story of rejection, loneliness, and ultimately, triumph. My name is Brooklyn Davis, and I'm 28 years old. I grew up in one of Connecticut's wealthiest neighborhoods, but wealth doesn't always bring happiness, especially when your family doesn't understand your dreams. The Davis family owned a law firm in Connecticut that had been in business for 3 generations. Davis, Patterson and Associates. It was founded by my grandfather, Charles Davis, built up by my father, William Davis, and now run by my brother, Marcus Davis. Everyone expected me to carry on the tradition, everyone except me. My mother, Elizabeth Davis, was once a successful lawyer, but after marrying, she chose to focus on social activities. She was well known in Connecticut's elite circles. She organized charity events, opened art galleries, and of course talked about her children's achievements at every opportunity. By children, I mean Marcus and Madison. I was different. Marcus, 3 years older than me, was the perfect son. He graduated from Harvard Law School, joined my father's firm, and was someone we were all proud of. He was tall, handsome, always dressed in a suit, and had a way of speaking that captivated everyone. I always felt small next to him. Madison, on the other hand, was a year younger than me, but she seemed years ahead. She was studying business at Columbia University and was also into fashion. She was like a mini version of my mother. Elegant, sophisticated, and always saying the right things. Around her, I always felt clumsy and inadequate. And I loved being in the kitchen. I first stepped into the kitchen when I was 8 years old. Our housekeeper, Maria, was an elderly woman of Italian descent. At the time my family was out, I was home alone, and Maria was rolling out pizza dough in the kitchen. Noticing my curiosity, she said in her thick accent, "Come here, little lady, I'll teach you how to make real pizza." That day, my life changed. Maria's hands were magical. I watched her knead the dough, chop the tomatoes, and mix the spices in awe. And then, when the delicious smell from the oven filled the house, that's when I knew that this was what I wanted to do. On weekends, I started spending hours in the kitchen with Maria. I helped her cook Italian dishes and learned recipes from her. I learned how to make pasta, cook risotto, and balance sauces. Every new recipe was like a new adventure for me. Of course, my family had no idea. To them, I was just their little girl who plays games. That is, until I was 12 and decided to cook for them. That Sunday, my family was getting ready for a late breakfast. I went into the kitchen and followed the pancake recipe I had learned from Maria. I didn't just make pancakes, I also made a fresh fruit salad, a special syrup, and even little quiches. When I brought everything to the table, everyone was surprised. "Where did you order this?" Marcus asked. "Brooklyn made it," my mother said, her voice a mix of pride and surprise. That day, I received what was perhaps the greatest compliment I've ever gotten from my family. Even my father said, "That's delicious, Brooklyn. Well done." At that moment, I thought maybe my family would finally understand my passion. Little did I know how wrong I was. Throughout high school, my passion for cooking grew. After school, I would spend time in the kitchen with Maria, learn new recipes online, and even go out to try new restaurants in the city on weekends. But to my family, it was just a hobby. "Brooklyn, cooking is a nice hobby, but it shouldn't go beyond that," my mother would say constantly. "You're a member of the Davis family, you need to study law, or at least business." My father was even more direct. "There should be a limit to how much time you spend in the kitchen, Brooklyn. You're a girl who's going to do great things. Don't waste your time with menial tasks." Domestic chores, those words stuck in my heart. In my senior year of high school, I applied to the Culinary Institute of America. I applied with a portfolio I had secretly put together, photos of the dishes I had made, and a reference letter from Maria. I was accepted and received a full scholarship. That evening, as I prepared to share the news with my family, my heart was racing. Maybe they would finally understand. Maybe they would support me. "This is nonsense, Brooklyn," my father said without even looking at the letter. "You're not going to the CIA. You're going to Yale, or at least Columbia. You'll study law or business." "But Dad, this is a real university. And I got a full scholarship." "Cooking school isn't a university," Marcus interjected. "Brooklyn, what are you doing? Is your future plan to be a waiter?" Madison was even harsher. "Are you serious, Brooklyn? Rich families don't send their kids to be chefs. It's just embarrassing." My mom was silent for a moment, then spoke softly but firmly. "Brooklyn, sweetie, we want to support you, but this isn't practical. Cooking can stay a hobby, but for a real career, you need to choose a serious major." That night, I cried in my room, but the next day, I had made up my mind. I applied to Yale and was accepted, but I kept my application to the CIA a secret. My plan was to study at Yale for a year, mend my relationship with my family, and then tell them I had decided to pursue what I really wanted. I couldn't understand how naive I was at the time. My first year at Yale was a disaster. Law classes bored me. I didn't care about the topics my friends talked about, and I constantly missed the kitchens. When I came home on weekends, I found solace in cooking with Maria, but my family was uncomfortable with that. "Are you still messing around with that in Brooklyn?" Marcus would ask. "You need to get involved in university activities, network." By the start of my second year at Yale, I knew I couldn't take it anymore. I applied to transfer to the CIA, and was accepted. This time, I decided to have a serious talk with my family. That Sunday evening, I dropped the bomb at the family dinner. "I'm leaving Yale and transferring to the Culinary Institute of America." The silence was terrifying. It was as if time had stopped. Then my father exploded. "Nonsense, this is nonsense, Brooklyn. Have you lost your mind?" "Dad, listen to me. This is my passion. This is my passion? Passion." My father was standing up, his face bright red. "Brooklyn, you're 19 years old and you're out of your mind. You're not going to be a chef. You're a member of the Davis family." My mother started crying. "Brooklyn, why are you doing this to us? Why are you trying to embarrass our family?" Marcus spoke in a cold voice. "Brooklyn, have you thought about the consequences of your decision? What will people in our social circle say? Our daughter became a chef." Madison shook her head. "This is so embarrassing, Brooklyn. What will I tell my friends at university?" "This is my life," I shouted. "This is my decision. Why can't you understand?" My father slammed his fist on the table. "This conversation is over, Brooklyn. You're not going to the CIA, period." "But Dad," I said period, "and if you keep this up, there will be nothing left to talk about between us." It sounded like a threat, but I wasn't going to back down. "Then there's nothing left to talk about," I said, standing up, "because I'm going to the CIA." That night, my life changed. My father stopped talking to me. My mother cried constantly, trying to get me to change my mind. Marcus and Madison started acting as if I didn't exist. But I didn't change my mind. The day I went to the CIA, only Maria saw me off. As I packed my bags, I left home with a broken heart, but a determined mind. "You'll see," I thought. "One day you will see." My first days at the Culinary Institute of America were difficult, but also fascinating. I was finally able to pursue my passion. I was finally able to learn the things I wanted to learn. But at night, my loneliness overwhelmed me. I wanted to call my family, to tell them what I was learning. But I called, and there was no answer. I wrote letters, but they never came back. At the end of my first year, my mother called once. "Brooklyn, you still have a chance to give up and come home," she said, crying. "If you apologize to your father, he can get you back into Yale." "Mom, I'm very happy here. Why can't you understand?" "Because you're hurting yourself, Brooklyn. You're embarrassing our family." That phone call was the last time we ever spoke. During my second year at the CIA, I started an internship in New York City. I worked in small bistros and local restaurants, gaining real kitchen experience. The pay was low and the hours were long, but I learned something new every day. One day, an internship opportunity came up at Le Bernardin in Manhattan. It was one of the most prestigious restaurants in the world, and this opportunity was like gold to me. I applied and surprisingly, I was accepted. My days at Le Bernardin shaped me. The techniques I learned from Chef Eric Ripert, his understanding of discipline, and his perfectionism became my philosophy. There, I learned not only how to cook, but also how to be an artist. After graduating, I started working at small restaurants in New York. I started as a sous chef, then became head chef. I learned at every place I worked, grew, and proved myself. At 26, I had a dream of owning my own place. But I needed money to do that. I took out loans from banks, pooled my savings, and took a risk. I found a small 30-seat place in Soho. I named my restaurant Stellar because I wanted to shine like the stars. The first few months were very difficult. I had trouble finding staff, I had trouble attracting customers, and I almost went bankrupt. But I didn't give up. I worked late into the night, every night, trying to perfect every recipe. 6 months later, New York Times food critic Pete Wells visited my restaurant. I didn't know who he was, I was just focused on providing excellent service. The review that came out a week later changed my life. Stellar is a mesmerizing experience in the hands of young chef Brooklyn Davis. Each dish combines technical perfection with emotional depth. Suddenly, everyone was talking about Stellar. Reservations were booked solid, and a waiting list formed. Food and Wine magazine named me a rising star. A year later, the Michelin Guide inspectors arrived. I didn't recognize them, I just served each customer with the same care I always did. The day I found out we'd earned a Michelin star, I couldn't hold back the tears. At 27, I was the owner of a Michelin-starred restaurant, but there was no one to share my success with. Back then, I would sometimes stalk my family on social media. Marcus was still working at my father's company. Madison was trying to make it in the fashion world. My mom and dad were still making appearances at social events. None of them called me, none of them saw my achievements. It was as if I didn't exist. To say that this situation was painful would be an understatement. At night, when there was no one to share my successes with, the weight of loneliness would crush me. But today, 10 years later, everything was about to change. That evening, I was preparing in Stellar's kitchen. Saturday evenings were always busy, but this one was special. We had been featured on the cover of New York Magazine, and many important names had made reservations. When service began, I was watching the dining room through the large window in the kitchen. As usual, watching my customers and seeing them enjoy their meals made me happy. And then I saw them. They were sitting at table 7. My mother, my father, Marcus, and Madison. My heart nearly stopped. After 10 years, I was seeing them alive and well. My mother was still as elegant as ever, but she had aged. My father seemed even more serious. Marcus looked like he hadn't taken off his suit, and Madison still looked perfect. My hands were shaking. I was having trouble breathing. The moment I had dreamed of for 10 years had arrived, but I didn't know how to react. My waiter, Michael, approached their table. He told them about our special menu and recommended some wines. My family seemed impressed. They looked around, appreciating the beauty of the restaurant, but they still didn't know they were in my restaurant. I went back to the kitchen and gathered my team. "Tonight will be perfect," I said. "Every dish will be a work of art." I prepared a special menu for my family. Each dish contained a memory from my childhood. Italian techniques taught by Maria, but with a modern twist. I remembered the flavors they loved, but presented them with my own interpretation. Hours passed. My family enjoyed every dish with great pleasure. They were chatting, laughing, and praising the restaurant's quality. At one point, my father called over the waiter. "Michael, who is the chef of this restaurant?" he asked. "I haven't eaten food of this quality in a long time." Michael smiled proudly. "Chef Brooklyn Davis. He's only 28 years old and Michelin-starred." My family seemed impressed, but they hadn't made the connection yet. Brooklyn Davis, the surname Davis didn't ring a bell for them. After the meal, I made up my mind. It was time to come out of hiding. I called Michael over. Michael, tell the customers at table 7. Chef Davis wants to see them backstage. Michael was surprised. I rarely meet with customers, only in very special circumstances, but he didn't ask any questions and went to their table. I stood away from my family and watched Michael. He approached their table and bowed politely. "Excuse me, Chef Davis would like to see you backstage." My father's face showed a moment of surprise. "Us, why?" "The chef was very impressed with you and would like to thank you and meet you." My family looked at each other. This wasn't a normal situation in restaurants, but they accepted politely. As Michael led them toward the kitchen, I looked at myself in the mirror one last time. My chef's uniform was clean, my hair was pulled back, and I stood tall with pride. I wasn't that little girl anymore. I was the owner of my own success. And then Michael entered the kitchen with my family. "Chef Davis, your customers are here." I turned and looked them in the eyes. In that moment, I experienced the deepest silence in the world. It was as if time had stopped. My mother's face was shocked. My father's face was confused. Marcus's face was disbelief, and Madison's face was pure horror. "Hello," I said in a calm voice. "I'm Chef Brooklyn Davis. Welcome to Stellar." And my family's world was turned upside down in that moment. Silence filled every corner of the kitchen. My staff stood in a corner trying to figure out what was happening. My family, however, stood frozen, as if they had seen a ghost. My mother was the first to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. "Brooklyn? Is that you?" I smiled, but it was a cold smile. "Yes, Mom, it's me. Hello again after 10 years. My father stepped forward, his eyes still filled with disbelief. "Is this your restaurant?" "Yes, Dad. I'm the owner and head chef of Stellar. That's how those waitressing jobs turned out." Those words hit him like a slap in the face. I could see from his expression that he remembered the derogatory words he had said years ago. Marcus stepped forward, still in shock but trying to speak. "Brooklyn, we didn't know. I mean, you didn't know?" I raised my voice. "Or didn't you want to know? Because I was featured in the New York Times. I was in Food and Wine magazine. I won a Michelin star. But none of you ever called." The kitchen staff, uncomfortable witnessing this family drama, began to quietly make their way out. But I didn't care. The moment I'd been waiting for 10 years had finally arrived. Madison, as always, was quick to compose herself. "Brooklyn, if we had known you were successful, of course we would have." "If we had heard," I laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. "Madison, you live on social media. You follow all the elite restaurants in New York. There's no way you didn't hear about Stellar." Her face turned red. "Understand that I was right. All of you." My mom started crying. "Brooklyn, we missed you so much. We made so many mistakes." "You missed me?" I asked coldly. "You didn't even call once in 10 years. You didn't send a Christmas card. You forgot my birthday. You didn't even come to my graduation." "You didn't call us either," my father replied, his voice still carrying that old harshness. This drove me crazy. "I didn't call you. I called you constantly for the first 6 months. I wrote letters. I tried to tell you about my achievements. But you didn't respond. You treated me like I was dead." As my voice rose, some customers in the living room looked toward the kitchen, trying to figure out what was going on, but I didn't care anymore. "You know," I said in a calmer voice, "every time I achieved something, I wanted to call you. When I graduated from the CIA, when I got my first job, when I won a Michelin star, every time I picked up the phone and thought about calling you. But then I remembered our last conversation. I looked at my father. You told me there's nothing left to talk about between us. I was 19 at the time, and I still thought you were a man of your word because you kept your promise." I began to see signs of regret on my father's face. But it was too late. "Brooklyn, No, Dad, it's my turn to talk. I've been silent for 10 years. Now listen." I was standing in the middle of the kitchen, having my final showdown with my family. My staff continued to run the restaurant, but I was focused only on this moment. "You know, what I'm most angry about isn't that you didn't support me. What I'm most angry about is that you didn't know me." My mother spoke through her sobs. "We knew you, Brooklyn." "No, Mom, you didn't know me. You wanted me to be the person you wanted me to be. But I've known who I am since I was 8 years old. I loved being in the kitchen. I loved cooking. I loved making people happy. But you never saw that. Marcus tried to interrupt. Brooklyn, we were just worried about your future. My future? I gave him a hard look. Marcus, you still work at my dad's company. You've never made your own way. What do you know about my future? That shut him up, because it was true, and he knew it. I turned to Madison. And you, Madison? You're still trying to make it in the fashion world. I saw it on Instagram. You're still living off your mom and dad's money. Madison's face was red with anger, but she couldn't respond. Do you know what? I said, my voice growing stronger. I can't tell you how much it hurts me, because instead of seeing your own child own a Michelin-starred restaurant, you chose to be ashamed of him. My father tried to speak one last time. Brooklyn, we didn't know.
You didn't know because you didn't want to know.
I was shouting now. You didn't read the article about me in the New York Times because you weren't ready to be proud of me. You didn't see me on the cover of Food and Wine because you still thought I was a failure. The customers in the room were now clearly trying to figure out what was going on. But Michael and my team were keeping things under control, explaining things to them. And the most painful thing, I continued, my voice now slower and deeper, is that you're here, at Stellar, eating my food, drinking my wine, praising the decor, after rejecting me for 10 years.
My mother took a step forward. Brooklyn, we're sorry. We're truly sorry. We made a huge mistake.
I looked at her and I saw genuine remorse in her eyes. But it was too late. Sorry? I shook my head slowly. Mom, some things can't be sorried for. You ignored your own child for 10 years. You forgot my birthdays. You ignored my achievements. But we see it now, Marcus said. We understand how successful you are. Now, my eyes widened. Now? So if I hadn't been successful, would I still be worthless? Does my success make me worthy of love, Marcus? This question cornered him, because that was the truth. They were only ready to accept me because I was successful. You know, I said, leaning against the kitchen counter, I've imagined this moment for years. I thought about what I would say when I saw you again. Sometimes I thought I would yell at you about how angry I was. Sometimes I thought I would forgive you. They all looked at me with hope. But now, seeing you here, I'm just sad, because you lost 10 years with your own child. You missed my growing up. You didn't see me struggle, fail, and succeed again. My voice softened, but my resolve didn't waver. And most importantly, you never really knew me. I'm still the same Brooklyn. I still love cooking. I still love making people happy. I'm still a passionate person. But you saw all of that as housework. My father tried to speak one last time, his voice breaking. Brooklyn, what can we do? How can we fix this? I looked at him for a long time. If he had asked me that question 10 years ago, maybe things could have been different. There's nothing you can do, Dad. Because lost time doesn't come back. Lost trust doesn't come back. And most importantly, love that's been rejected once never feels the same again. My mother collapsed and continued crying. But you're our child, Brooklyn. No, Mom, I said in a cold voice. I'm not your child anymore. I'm a woman who takes care of herself, creates her own success, and charts her own path. Madison interrupted, her voice trembling. Brooklyn, please, we're a family. Family? I laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. Does a family not call each other for 10 years? Does a family ignore each other's successes? Does a family not love each other unconditionally? I walked toward her. Madison, when you called me family, didn't you notice that I wasn't in your family photos on Instagram? Didn't you ever wonder, where is my sister? What is she doing? Madison couldn't answer. Marcus tried one last time. Brooklyn, we can really change. Marcus, I said, cutting him off. You still don't get it. This isn't about change. It's about trust, and I can't trust you anymore. Michael appeared in the kitchen doorway and spoke softly. Chef. Excuse me, but the customers are waiting. And the reservations? I was grateful to him. This conversation had gone on too long and was disrupting the normal flow of my restaurant. Of course, Michael, I said. Then I turned back to my family. How was your dinner? I asked, as if nothing had happened. My father looked at me in surprise. What? Your dinner. Did you like it? Brooklyn, we're not talking about dinner right now. I said firmly, because this is my profession, it's my life, and your opinion doesn't matter anymore. My mom tried to respond. It was delicious, Brooklyn. Really? Good, then you can pay the bill. Michael will help you. Madison couldn't believe it. You want us to pay? This is a restaurant, Madison. Customers pay for what they eat. You are now my customers. The words hung in the air. The meaning was clear. They were no longer my family, just customers. My father pulled out his wallet, his hands shaking. How much? Michael brought the bill. $450, sir. My father left the money on the table, then looked at me one last time. Brooklyn, we're really sorry. I know, I said. But sometimes being sorry isn't enough. My family started to leave the kitchen. My mother turned around one last time. Brooklyn, if you change your mind, our door is always open. I looked at her, not the broken girl from 10 years ago, but the strong woman she was today. Mom, my door was open too. For 10 years, but you never knocked. Those were my last words. My family walked out into the dining room, paid the bill, and left my restaurant. When I was alone in the kitchen, my legs started to shake. The confrontation I had been waiting for 10 years had finally happened. But the relief I had hoped for wasn't there. Michael returned, looking concerned. Chef, are you okay? I'm fine, Michael, I said, but my voice trembled. Just a little tired. Would you like to call it a night early? I shook my head. No, we'll continue as usual tonight. Stellar's customers expect perfection from us. Michael smiled understandingly and left the kitchen. I leaned against the counter and took a deep breath. 10 years later, I had reunited with my family, but this wasn't a reunion, it was a final farewell. I looked in the mirror. There were tear stains under my eyes. But these weren't tears of sadness. These were tears of liberation. I no longer needed their approval. I no longer longed for their love. I was no longer Brooklyn Davis, the girl living in her family's shadow. I was Brooklyn Davis, the owner of a Michelin-starred restaurant, the architect of my own success, a strong woman who didn't need anyone else. And this was the true beginning of my story. When I woke up the next morning, I wasn't sure if last night had been real, but the 47 missed calls and 28 messages on my phone made it clear that everything was very real. Our confrontation with my family hadn't gone unnoticed by the other customers at the restaurant, and of course, in the age of social media, nothing stays hidden. When I opened Instagram, a video telling our story had gone viral. A young couple at one of the tables had recorded part of our conversation with my family. It was clearly audible in the video. I am no longer your child. I am a woman who takes care of herself, creates her own success, and charts her own path. It had received 2 million views in just one night. The comment section was a battlefield. Some supported me, writing, "Your family didn't deserve you." Others said, "Family comes first, you were too harsh." But what really touched me were the messages from people sharing their own stories. I was also rejected by my family. Your story gave me hope. I haven't spoken to my father in 8 years. You're so strong. I admire women who carve their own path. The phone kept ringing. News channels, podcasts, journalists. Everyone wanted to hear my story. Michael called early in the morning. "Chef, reservations are going crazy. 2,000 people tried to make reservations for today. We're fully booked for the next 3 months." Going viral had sparked a surge of interest in the restaurant, but all I wanted was peace. After taking a shower, I decided to check my Instagram DMs. Most were supportive messages, but one caught my attention. The Alexander Stone NYC. "Brooklyn, your story really touched me. I'm someone who had to give up the job I loved because of family pressure. Can we talk? Alexander." I looked at his profile. Alexander Stone, 32 years old, works on Wall Street but lists photographer as his side hustle. He was handsome, with a serious face, but there was warmth in his eyes. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't respond to strangers, but that day, I felt like I needed a fresh start. "Hi, Alexander. Sure, we can talk. Would you like to come to Stellar? You can stop by the restaurant this afternoon. His response came immediately. Thanks, Brooklyn. Is 3 p.m. okay? Perfect. Just mention my name at the door. This small interaction was just the beginning of what I would experience that day. When I arrived at Stellar around noon, I saw a crowd gathered outside the restaurant. Journalists, bloggers, and curious onlookers. I had to enter through the back door. Michael greeted me at the back door. Chef, did you see the crowd out front? Also, he paused. Also what, Michael?
Also, your family called 3 times. They want to see you.
I took a deep breath. You told me I wouldn't be speaking with anyone from my family, right? Of course. But they insisted. Especially your mother. She was crying. This information affected me but didn't faze me. Michael, if anyone from my family comes here, you won't let them in. That's my final word. Understood, Chef. At 3 p.m., Alexander Stone arrived. When I first saw him, I noticed he was much more impressive than in his photos. Tall, with dark brown hair, and most importantly, a sincere expression in his eyes. I took him to the VIP lounge, a private corner where no one would disturb us. Brooklyn, he said as he sat down. First of all, I'm very sorry about what happened last night. I watched the video, and I think you handled it very well. Thank you, Alexander. But you said you went through something similar. He took a deep breath. Yes, I was a kid obsessed with photography. But my father kept telling me I was supposed to be the heir to Stone Industries. Art is a hobby, Alexander. The real business is in finance, he'd say. This sounded very familiar. And what did you do? I gave in. A bitter smile. I went to Harvard Business School, started working on Wall Street. Now I'm 32, and I guess you could say I'm pretty successful. But you're unhappy. Absolutely. Every day when I wake up, I go to a job I don't want to do. I see the dust collecting on my camera, and I hate myself. I felt close to him. Why now? I asked. Why do you want to talk to me now? Because you did it, he said, his eyes shining. You stood up to your family's pressure and carved your own path, and you didn't just succeed, you found happiness. Am I happy? I was asking myself the same question. You seem happy. Last night on the video, you could have been angry, but you were strong. And now you're here, sitting in your own space. That doesn't make you unhappy. He was right. I had been unhappy for years, but I wasn't anymore. Alexander, you can still change everything. You're 32 years old. It's not too late. But how? My family will reject me. My career will be behind me. I'll have to start over. I started over when I was 18, I said. You can start when you're 32. And who knows, maybe your family will be understanding. Mine didn't. But not all families are the same. We talked for a long time. Alexander was really passionate about photography. He showed me his work on his phone, street photos, portraits, landscapes. He was really talented. Who's seen these photos? I asked. No one. It's just my hobby. This isn't a hobby, Alexander. This is art. And you really need to change the lives you're living. Our conversation lasted 3 hours. As he was leaving, something had changed between us. We weren't just understanding each other, we were drawn to each other. Brooklyn, he said as he was leaving. Do you have time tonight? I'd like to take you out to dinner. I run a restaurant, Alexander. I'm pretty good at cooking. He laughed. All right, where do you want to go? Let's go for a walk in Central Park, I said. I haven't been able to do that in a long time. Perfect. Is 8 o'clock okay? Perfect. After he left, I felt light and hopeful. For the first time in a long time, I felt excited about the future. But today wasn't over yet. At 6 p.m., Madison came to the restaurant. Michael tried to stop her, but she pushed her way in. Brooklyn, she shouted in the middle of the room. I need to talk to you? The customers looked on in shock. This was exactly the kind of situation I didn't want. I came out of the kitchen and warned her in a calm voice, Madison, I have customers. If we're going to talk, we'll talk somewhere private. I took her to the VIP lounge again. As soon as she sat down, she started crying.
Brooklyn, please.
The family is in shambles. Mom is crying all the time. Dad can't focus on work. Marcus feels guilty. And you, Madison, How do you feel? I feel terrible. Because you were right. You were right about everything. This confession surprised me. Madison never admitted she was wrong. What was I right about? Everything. We didn't see you, we didn't understand you. We were bad family members. The tears looked real, but they were 10 years too late.
Madison, if you're really sorry, we need a time machine. Because losing me means you lost yourselves.
But we don't want to lose you. Then you should have thought about it 10 years ago. Madison started crying again. Brooklyn, please. Give us another chance. We can change. Madison, I said, my voice firm but tired. You don't want to change. You just want to be part of a successful person's family. There's a difference. That's not true. Then tell me, Madison, why now? Why after I got a Michelin-starred restaurant? Why after we went viral? Why after we were in the media? She couldn't answer, because the answer was clear. Madison, go tell your family. Brooklyn is gone. There's nothing left between us but blood, and blood doesn't guarantee love. But we love you. No, Madison, you don't love me. You love my success. You love my status. But you never loved me, the real me. Madison couldn't respond. The truth was painful but undeniable. Brooklyn, one last chance. Madison, I said, standing up. If you really love me, let me go. This is my last request. After she left, I went to meet Alexander. We walked in Central Park for 2 hours, talked and laughed. I hadn't felt this relaxed in a long time. Brooklyn, he said as we walked, your story gave me courage. I'm going to quit tomorrow. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
And maybe I'll open a photo studio. Maybe I'll succeed. Maybe I won't. But at least I'll try. That's wonderful, Alexander. I took his hand. And you won't be afraid? Of course I'll be afraid. But were you afraid when you were 8? I was scared to death. But you did it. But I did it. That night, for the first time in a long time, I thought I could be truly happy. Not just because of success, not just to live. But my story isn't over yet. The next morning, when I woke up, there was a package waiting at the door. What came out of it shocked me again. It was an official letter from my father's law firm. It read, Dear Brooklyn Davis, Davis, Patterson and Associates, we are writing to inform you that your statements made in front of customers at Stellar Restaurant have damaged the reputation of our family-owned company. We reserve the right to take legal action. Sincerely, William Davis, senior partner. As I read the letter, my hands were shaking. Not just from anger, but from disappointment. Instead of trying to win his daughter back, my father had chosen to sue her. At that moment, I realized that yesterday's confrontation wasn't enough. I needed to do something bigger. And I had the perfect plan for that. After reading my father's letter, I knew it was time to put my plan into action. Because if they were threatening me legally, I would respond in kind. But my plan wasn't just legal. It was much bigger, much more effective, and much more permanent. That morning, as I sat in the kitchen, I felt a strange calmness inside me. The anger and disappointment that had been building up for 10 years had finally found its target. I was no longer thinking emotionally, but strategically. Maria had arrived early, as usual, and was making coffee. Seeing that I looked worried, she came over to me. Piccola mia, you're not well. You look very serious. Maria, everything is fine, I'm just making some important decisions. Is it about the family? Yes, but don't worry, I'm doing the right thing. Maria shook her head. She always understood me, even without words. You are a strong girl, Brooklyn, but be careful. Revenge sometimes burns the field of revenge. The warning stuck in my head, but it didn't change my mind, because this wasn't just revenge. It was a quest for justice. I opened my phone book and found a number, Jonathan Blackwood. He was my classmate at Harvard Law School, now one of New York's top media lawyers. More importantly, he was my father's firm's biggest rival. Jonathan and I were close friends in college. He also came from a wealthy family, but unlike me, his family had supported him. After graduation, he started his own firm and quickly rose through the ranks. He and Davis, Patterson and Associates had faced each other in court many times. When he called me, there was both surprise and a hint of satisfaction in his voice. Jonathan, it's Brooklyn Davis. How are you?
Brooklyn, I saw you on TV.
Good for you. What a drama. But to be honest, I didn't think you'd come out so strong. How can I help you? My father's firm sent me threatening letters, but I'm planning something much bigger than that. I need your help. I'm listening. And Brooklyn, you know I hate William Davis. He constantly belittled me at Harvard. He always made fun of me, calling me new money. My dad is self-made, so he never saw me as his equal. I forgot that detail. Jonathan's father was also a businessman who built his own empire. He wasn't part of the old money class. My dad never liked families like that. Then, this will be personal for you. Absolutely. What's your plan? I explained my plan to him in detail. It was a multifaceted strategy, not just legal, but also media, social, and economic. We would apply pressure from every angle. I could hear the excitement in Jonathan's voice. Brooklyn, you're a genius. And it's not just legal, it'll be very effective. If you do this, you'll teach not just your father but the entire family a lesson. The Davis firm has so many ethical issues that they could collapse just from the start of our investigation. And of course, I'll help you. Thanks, Jonathan. How much time do we have? 3 weeks would be ideal to put this plan into action. Media research, preparing legal documents, gathering witness statements. But there's one more thing, Brooklyn. What? If you do this, there's no turning back. Your family will never forgive you. And William Davis is a powerful man. He'll fight back. He may try to harm you and your business. Jonathan, there's nothing left to do to make them forgive me. They lost me 10 years ago. Now it's time to protect myself. And I'm ready for countermeasures. Because now I'm a powerful woman too. Then, let's get started. Come to my office tomorrow morning, and we'll discuss the details. And Brooklyn? Yes? This could be the end of the Davis firm. Are you ready for that? That question made me think, ending a 60-year-old firm, but then I remembered my father's words, "You'll never succeed." Yes, Jonathan, I'm ready. After hanging up, I called Alexander. He was having an important day too, his resignation day. Hello, Brooklyn. Today is a historic day. How did it go? I could feel the excitement in my heart. Alexander laughed. I handed in my resignation letter. You should have seen the look on my boss's face. At first he thought I was joking. Then he said, "Are you crazy, Alexander?" I said, "No." I finally came to my senses. As I was leaving, the entire department gave me a standing ovation. That's great, Alexander. How do you feel? Free! I feel free for the first time in 15 years. We're going to celebrate tonight, but I can tell something's up from your voice. What are you planning, Brooklyn? I'll tell you tonight. Let's meet at Stellar at 8 and Alexander? Yes? Come prepared, because what I have to say is huge. I'm going to need your support. When Alexander arrived that evening, I took him to the private dining room. It was just the two of us, away from the crowd of customers. It wasn't going to be a romantic dinner by candlelight, but more like a strategy meeting. I showed him my father's letter first. As Alexander read the letter, his face grew increasingly serious. This is completely unfair, Brooklyn. You didn't hurt them, you just succeeded.
Exactly.
And now they're trying to silence me. But I'm not going to stay silent anymore. So what exactly is your plan? I opened a file on the table. Inside was the draft strategy Jonathan and I had prepared. First step, a media campaign. I'll tell my story in detail in my own words. Not just the past, but the current threats. The New York Times, CNN, the Food Network, they all want to hear my story. That's a good idea. People are already on your side. Second phase, legal action. Jonathan is reviewing my father's company's files from the last 10 years, ethical violations, client misconduct, financial irregularities. If we find anything, we'll report it to the Bar Association and the FBI. Alexander whistled. This is huge, Brooklyn. Really huge. Third phase, social pressure. I'll reach out to his social circles in Connecticut. Country club members, charitable organizations, golf clubs. My family places a lot of importance on their status there. Fourth phase? Economic. I'll target my father's firm's key clients. Ethical issues are crucial in the business world. If they lose their clients, the firm will collapse. And the final stage? Personal. I will no longer be Brooklyn Davis, but Brooklyn Stone. I will legally change my name and sever all ties with the Davis family. Alexander remained silent for a long time, trying to process the plan. Then he took my hand. Brooklyn, this is huge. This isn't just revenge, it's a full-on war. It could burn them, but it could also burn you. Are you sure? Alexander, they ignored me for 10 years. Now that I'm successful, they want me back, and they're trying to silence me. That's not acceptable. What about the consequences? Media attention, legal proceedings. It could affect you as much as it affects them. Alexander, I've already lost everything. My family, my past, my roots, it all ended 10 years ago. Now the only thing I have left to protect is my honor, my freedom, and the future we've built together. Alexander squeezed my hand. Then I'll support you. In everything. I'll be by your side every step of the way. I'll fight alongside you. This support made me feel very strong. I wasn't alone on this path anymore. Over the next 3 weeks, Jonathan and I carefully prepared the plan. Every detail was calculated, every step predetermined. This wasn't just an emotional move, it was a professional strategic operation. The first week was the research phase. Jonathan's team scrutinized my father's company's files from the past 15 years. We hired private investigators, spoke with former employees, and reviewed customer complaints, and they found some shocking things. Brooklyn, Jonathan said when we met in his office with files piled up on his desk. This is bigger than we thought. Your father's company has not only committed ethical violations, but also serious crimes such as tax evasion, misuse of customer funds, issuing fake invoices, conspiring against rival companies, and attempting to influence arbitration panels. This information shocked me. I never imagined that my father's company was so corrupt. Is this for sure? There's documentation, internal correspondence, emails, financial records, witness statements. William Davis is going to have big problems. We're not just talking about ethical violations here, we're talking about federal crimes. What should I do? File official complaints. But first, play the media card. Because once the official process starts, you could be subject to a gag order. The media needs to hear your story first. In the second week, we put our media strategy into action. I met with Sarah Chen, a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter for the New York Times. I showed her not only my story but also my father's threatening letter and some of what Jonathan had found. This is a very powerful story, Brooklyn, Sarah said, as she reviewed the files. It's not just a family drama, there's abuse of power and institutional corruption. This is front-page material, it could even be a Pulitzer candidate. When can it be published? In 2 weeks, we need to finish our research and verify everything. We also need to give Davis's firm the right to comment, but their response will be part of the story. During this time, my family continued to call me constantly. My mom was calling 15-20 times a day. Madison was sending me message after message, even trying to reach me on Instagram. Even Marcus messaged me on LinkedIn for the first time in 10 years. But the most surprising thing was that my dad called me personally. His tone was unfamiliar, anxious, and even a little cowardly. Brooklyn, will you stop this nonsense? What do you want? Money? An apology? Just tell me what you want. Dad, I'm just responding to your threatening letter. That letter was just a warning. That's what lawyers write. Don't make such a big deal out of it. Is this how you're going to talk to your daughter after 10 years, with threats, bargaining? There was a long silence. I could hear my father breathing. Brooklyn, come home. Let's talk. Let's talk. Face to face. Home? Which home, Dad? This is my home, Stellar. It's not your home. It's our home. It's your home, too. You're our daughter. No, Dad. I've had my own home since I was 18. I left your home and stopped being your daughter 10 years ago. Remember? You told me there will be nothing left to discuss between the Davis family and us. Brooklyn, things were different back then. Dad, things are different now. I'm not your little girl anymore. I'm a 28-year-old successful woman, and I know how to take care of myself. What do you want then? Nothing. I don't want anything from you anymore. I hung up the phone. That conversation actually said a lot. My father was finally taking me seriously, but he was still trying to play the old power games. In the third week, Alexander's life was also undergoing major changes. He was taking serious steps toward opening his photography studio. He had found the perfect place in Soho, started buying equipment, and even found his first clients. "Brooklyn," he said one day while we were shopping for equipment, "you didn't just give me courage, you completely changed my life." For the first time in 15 years, I woke up this morning feeling excited, not about work, but about life. "You changed mine too, Alexander. I haven't felt this hopeful in a long time." "Hopeful? Why?" "Because I'm not alone anymore. I haven't felt like someone was truly by my side in a long time. Someone who supports me unconditionally." He hugged me there, right in the middle of the store. "Brooklyn, I'm serious about you. This isn't just support, it's love. And it's not just about the current situation, it's about who you are, your true self." Those words made my heart flutter. "I love you too, Alexander. And you never tried to change me. Because you're perfect just the way you are. Then, no matter what happens, we'll face it together." When the day came for my plan to unfold, everything was ready. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about settling the score once and for all. But first, there was one more move to make, bringing the family together one last time. That morning, Jonathan sent a special courier to the family home in Connecticut. The courier wasn't just delivering an invitation, he was also carrying a legal notice. When the courier couldn't find anyone at the house, he went to the country club, where my mother went every Monday. My mother was there playing bridge with her friends. Her usual routine. The courier told me my mother's reaction when she saw the invitation. She was shocked at first, then she started crying. When her friends asked what was wrong, she said, "My daughter is calling me," and left immediately. She left the bridge game unfinished. The invitation was written in a very formal and cold tone. "The Davis family, you are invited to a private press conference organized by Brooklyn Davis. This event has been organized to resolve the issues between our families and to clearly define our future relationship. This will be our last official meeting. Date: tonight at 7 p.m. Location: Stellar Restaurant. VIP lounge dress code: business formal. Note: this event will be recorded live by national media outlets. Your attendance is required so that you may make your own statements. This is your last chance. Sincerely, Brooklyn Davis, owner and executive chef of Stellar Restaurant. P.S. Your absence will be interpreted as a unilateral statement to the media." The phrases "last chance" and one-sided statements were strategic. They would pressure them to come, but also make it clear how serious I was. At 1 p.m., my father called the restaurant. His voice was a mix of anger, anxiety, and panic. "Brooklyn, what does this invitation mean? What does a press conference mean?" Michael handed the phone to me. "Hello, Dad. The invitation is clear and straightforward. We will meet at 7 p.m. tonight." "Brooklyn, we said we would take legal action. These games must stop." "The games will end tonight, Dad, but not the way you want them to."
What do you mean? What are you planning?
"You'll find out tonight." "Oh, and Dad? The national media will be there. CNN, Fox News, New York Times. So don't forget to wear your best clothes. Because this will be the night that not just New York but all of America will be talking about." "Brooklyn, what are you doing? This is crazy. I don't have to answer to anyone anymore, Dad. I learned that 10 years ago. Now it's your turn." "Brooklyn, stop. Let's talk." I hung up the phone. At 2 o'clock, Madison called. Her voice filled with panic. "Brooklyn, please tell me what you're planning. Mom is freaking out. She's been crying non-stop. Dad has gathered the company partners for an emergency meeting. Marcus is looking for a lawyer." "Madison, don't worry. Everything will be clear tonight."
Brooklyn.
"Have you forgotten that we're family? You're our brother." "No, Madison. You can be family. I'm not anymore. Tonight, I'll make it official and public." "What does that mean? What are you going to do?" "You'll find out tonight. And Madison?" "Yes." "I recommend you come, because the media is already on their way. If you don't come, only my version will be heard." At 3 p.m., Marcus called the first time in 10 years. His voice was trembling and anxious.
Brooklyn, it's Marcus.
Please tell me what you're planning for tonight. The family is in panic. Our lawyers don't know what to do. Marcus, if you want to know my plan, come tonight. Brooklyn, please. Whatever you do tonight, think about the consequences. This won't just affect us. It could affect you too. I've lived with the consequences for 10 years, Marcus. Now it's your turn to live with them. What do you mean? You'll understand tonight. At 4 p.m., Jonathan called. Everything was in its final stages. Brooklyn, our media list is finalized. The New York Times, CNN, Fox News, Food Network, Page 6, TMZ. A total of 15 media outlets will be coming. There will also be a live broadcast. Perfect. Are the legal documents ready? Ready. The files for the FBI, the Bar Association, complaints, the IRS reports, everything will be in place after tonight. How's Alexander? He's ready. Morel will be there for support. Jonathan, I'm asking you one last time. Are you ready? Because tonight could be the end of the Davis firm. Brooklyn, I've been waiting 15 years for this. To see William Davis's downfall. By 6 p.m., preparations were complete. Stellar's VIP lounge had been completely rearranged. A stage-like platform, front rows for my family, professional camera angles for the media, and a sound system had been set up. Jonathan had arrived and was double-checking the documents. Alexander was by my side, holding my hands to calm me down. Michael and the rest of my team were finishing up preparations in the background. Brooklyn, Jonathan said as he made his final checks. Nothing will ever be the same after tonight. Are you ready? Because there's no turning back now. Jonathan, I've been preparing for this for 10 years. It's time. Alexander squeezed my hand. No matter what happens, I'm proud of you. At 7 o'clock, my family arrived. They were all dressed in business formal attire, but their faces were filled with deep anxiety and fear. Seeing the media crowd in front of the restaurant made them even more tense. My mother arrived first, her eyes swollen and red. She had obviously been crying for hours. My father followed, wearing his best suit, but his face was pale and tired. Marcus and Madison had come together, both trying to figure out what was going on. When they saw the layout of the room, they were shocked. This wasn't a family gathering. It was like a tribunal. Brooklyn, what is this? My mother asked when she saw the room. Welcome, I said in a calm but strong voice through the microphone. Please take your designated seats. Tonight, we are writing the end of a 10-year story. My family took their places in the front rows, and the media set up their cameras in the back. CNN was preparing for a live broadcast. The atmosphere was electric. My father tried to stand up. Brooklyn, this is nonsense. We deal with our family matters. Sit down, Dad, I said into the microphone, my voice echoing throughout the room. You've been talking for 10 years. Now it's my turn, and this time, all of America will be listening. The media was recording everything. My father sat down reluctantly, but his face was filled with anger and helplessness. Dear family and members of the media, I began. Tonight, here we are writing the final chapter of a 10-year story. There was a deep silence in the hall. Everyone was holding their breath, listening to me. This story is about a young girl who was rejected by her family. This girl was labeled shameful simply because she wanted to follow her dreams. For 10 years, she had no contact with her family. My mother had started crying, but she was silent. But this girl didn't give up. She worked hard, fought, and eventually became the owner of a Michelin-starred restaurant. And then, Jonathan walked onto the stage holding a large file folder. And then, her family wanted her back. Of course, only because she was successful. And finally, they made legal threats to silence her. My father's face turned red. That's why Brooklyn Davis, that is, me, is making these special announcements at the federal level today. Jonathan handed me the documents. These were the bombing documents we had been preparing for weeks. These documents are findings from the last 15 years of activities of the law firm Davis, Patterson and Associates. My father stood up in shock. How were these documents obtained? This is illegal. Completely legal, Dad. And these documents show that your firm has committed 47 separate ethical violations, received 23 client complaints, encountered 12 separate tax issues, and committed 8 federal violations over the past 15 years. Everyone in the room held their breath. This was an unexpected bombshell. I am reporting this information to the New York State Bar Association, the IRS, the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, and the SEC tomorrow morning. Additionally, these documents have been provided to all national media outlets. My father was completely devastated. His 40-year career and his firm were under threat. Marcus had buried his head in his hands. Madison was frozen in shock, and my mother was sobbing uncontrollably. But that's not all, I continued. A deal has been signed with HBO and Netflix. An 8-part documentary series titled Rejected: The Brooklyn Davis Story is being produced. I will tell my own story in my own words. CNN reporter Sarah Kim began asking questions. Ms. Davis, how reliable are these documents? They have been fully verified by forensic accounting experts. Every document is available in its original form. Madison stood up, crying. Brooklyn, please, don't ruin us completely. Madison, I said, giving her a cold look, I'm not ruining you. You ruined yourselves 10 years ago. I'm just bringing the truth to light. The Food Network reporter continued. So what will your relationship with your family be like from now on? There is no relationship anymore, because as of today, I am officially changing my name to Brooklyn Stone. Then Alexander walked onto the stage, holding a beautiful bouquet of flowers in a small box. By the way, I said with a smile, I'd like to introduce you to Alexander Stone, my boyfriend. And Alexander got down on one knee, opened the small box. Inside was a stunning diamond ring. Brooklyn Stone, will you marry me? The entire hall stood up and applause erupted. The media went wild, a live marriage proposal. Yes, I shouted, tears streaming down my face. 1,000 times yes. Alexander embraced me, kissing me passionately in front of the media. My family watched in shock. Their daughter's sister was getting engaged live on TV. Alexander is just like me, a brave person who defied family pressure and chose his own path. He left his job on Wall Street to become a photographer. Because true success isn't about others' approval, it's about pursuing your own happiness. At that moment, a Page 6 reporter asked, will you invite your family to the wedding? No, Brooklyn Stone's family is here, I said, pointing to Alexander, and the new family we're about to build. My father tried to speak one last time, but his voice was broken. Brooklyn, we're truly sorry. I looked at him for a long time. If I had heard those words 10 years ago, maybe everything could have been different. Dad, regret isn't felt only when you're caught, it's felt the moment you make a mistake. You didn't feel regret for 10 years. But now we understand our mistakes. No, Dad, now you're just afraid of the consequences. There's a difference. The TMZ reporter asked, what is your final message to the Davis family? I stepped up to the microphone, ready for my final words. The Davis family lost Brooklyn Davis 10 years ago. Today, Brooklyn Stone was born. And I owe nothing to anyone. And finally, Jonathan added as he stepped onto the stage, Brooklyn Stone is opening the Brooklyn Stone Culinary Academy tomorrow. It will provide full scholarships to young chefs who haven't received family support, because rejected dreams create the strongest motivation. The room erupted in enthusiastic applause. The media had the perfect footage for the finale. The story that ends here tonight, I concluded, is actually a new beginning. The story of Brooklyn Stone is just beginning. My family left the hall in ruins. None of them could say a word, because there were no words left to say. After the hall emptied, Alexander embraced me. Brooklyn, you were incredible, and this offer was real, not just for the show. I know, I said with a smile. And my answer was real too. I gave media interviews until midnight. Each question revealed a different part of my 10-year journey. In the days that followed, there was a media frenzy. Michelin-starred chef's family revenge and live broadcast award. Davis law firm under FBI investigation. Brooklyn Stone, the woman who made a name for herself. Stellar performance, success, or revenge. The Jen Brooklyn Stone hashtag remained trending worldwide for 3 days. My video on TikTok got 50 million views. The investigation into Davis, Patterson and Associates had a tsunami effect. The day the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit took over the case, my father's resignation from the firm became inevitable. Within the first 72 hours, 12 of my father's 15 partners resigned from the firm. The Connecticut Bar Association launched an emergency disciplinary investigation. 18 of the firm's 20 largest clients terminated their contracts. But my mother was the most affected. Her country club membership was permanently revoked. She was forced to resign from 8 charitable organizations she had been a member of for 30 years. Her social circle completely disintegrated. Madison lost her consulting job at Columbia. All of her connections in the fashion world were severed. She began to be referred to in the media as the Davis family's disgraceful daughter. Marcus, as the firm's last remaining partner, was trying to save everything, but 60 years of reputation had been destroyed overnight. Clients no longer trusted him. As I watched these events unfold, I felt something I had never expected to feel: emptiness. After venting all my anger, I was left with a strange emptiness. "Is this normal?" I asked Alexander, a week later. "I mean, this feeling of emptiness after getting your revenge?" "I think it's very normal," he said, holding my hand. "You've been focused on this moment for 10 years. Now that energy needs to go somewhere else, toward the future, toward happiness." He was right. Instead of dwelling on the past, I needed to focus on the future. At the end of the second week, I had an unexpected visitor. It was Maria, our former housekeeper. The elderly woman came to Stellar in tears. "Piccola mia, what have you done? Tutto il mondo ti guarda ora. The whole world is watching you now." "Maria, I did the right thing." "Ma la famiglia è importante." "But family is important." "Maria, they weren't my family. You were my real family. You were the one who raised me, who loved me." Maria cried for a long time, then hugged me. "You're strong, little girl. You've always been strong." In the third week, Alexander's photo studio had its grand opening. He had named it Stone Photography. He had even taken my last name. His first client was Vogue magazine. Thanks to his media exposure, he was landing the most prestigious jobs. "Brooklyn," he said on opening night, "look what happened. If you hadn't given me the courage, I would never have had these opportunities." "You were already talented, Alexander. You just needed to show it to the world." "Yes, but I couldn't have shown it without you. You gave me not just love, but courage too." That night, we had a small engagement party at the studio. Stellar's team, Jonathan, a few close friends. This was my new family, people not bound by blood but by love. By the fourth week, Stellar's reservations were booked solid through the end of 2025. The media exposure had turned the restaurant into one of the most sought-after spots in the world. But more importantly, thousands of young people started sending me messages. "Your story gave me courage. I'm going to stand up to my family's pressure. I've decided to chart my own path." These messages showed me how valuable everything I had experienced was. At the beginning of the second month, we held the grand opening of the Brooklyn Stone Culinary Academy, a stunning 3-story building in Soho. We were going to admit 100 students for the first term, all young people without family support. The applications were incredible. Over 2,500 young people applied. Each of their stories was similar to mine: rejection, lack of understanding, loneliness, but determination. "This isn't just a culinary school," I said at the opening ceremony. Live on TV, this is the University of Rejected Dreams. This is where young people who were told they couldn't succeed are proving them wrong. This speech went viral. Michelle Obama even shared it on Twitter. "Dreams don't die when families don't believe. They grow stronger." Brooklyn Stone inspiring the next generation. 3 months later, after Alexander's proposal, wedding preparations began. We had booked St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan. It was going to be a magnificent wedding for 500 people. While preparing the guest list, the topic of my family came up. "Brooklyn," Alexander said, "make your final decision. Do you want to invite your mother? Maybe just your mother?" I thought long and hard. "No, Alexander. Brooklyn Stone's wedding will be with the people Brooklyn Stone chooses. The past is closed. What if you regret it? Alexander, I've come to understand that there's nothing left for me to regret. I've made peace with the past, but I'm not going back. In the 4th month, the FBI investigation concluded. My father and 2 former partners were arrested. Federal charges, tax evasion, money laundering, embezzlement of client funds, and forgery. The news made national headlines, but it didn't affect me at all. I just told CNN, justice has been served. Davis, Patterson and Associates closed its doors. A 60-year-old firm was no more. Marcus was out of a job and had to start over at another firm in an entry-level position. 5. The wedding day arrived. St. Patrick's Cathedral was packed. Alexander's family, my chosen family, the Academy's first graduates, the entire stellar team. Maria was there too, sitting in the front row like my real mother. At the wedding ceremony, Alexander's father, David Stone, officiated. He welcomed me like a daughter, saying, "Brooklyn, you are now the most valued member of our family." Alexander Stone, I said in the vows. In the silence of the church, I accept you not only as my husband, but as my closest friend, my supporter, and my life partner. You loved me as I am, without trying to change me. Alexander's vows were even more emotional. Brooklyn, you taught me not only love, but also the courage to live. Being with you is the greatest adventure and the best decision of my life. In the wedding photos, we appeared as the Stone family. I was no longer a Davis officially in my heart and soul. I was a Stone. We spent our honeymoon in Italy. 2 weeks in Tuscany, Maria's hometown. An elderly woman guided us, cried, laughed. Ecco l'amore vero, she kept saying. Here is true love. After we returned from our honeymoon, we tried to get back to normal. But normal was different now. The Brooklyn Stone Culinary Academy had opened, and we started with our first 100 students. Each student had a different story, but they shared similar pains. Emily, 19, her family wanted her to be a nurse. Carlos, 22, his father wanted him to be a construction worker. Zoe, 20, her mother said, "Girls sweat too much in the kitchen." In this school, I said in my opening speech, your dreams are not belittled. Here you can be whoever you want to be. One of our first graduates was 19-year-old Samantha. Like me, her family had rejected her, saying cooking is just a hobby. 6 months later, on graduation day, "Chef Stone," she said on stage, tears streaming down her face. "You didn't just teach me how to cook. You taught me how to be strong. My family still doesn't understand, but I don't care anymore." That moment showed me how valuable all my struggles had been. Changing even one person was worth everything. In the 6th month, I received surprising news. I was pregnant. Alexander and I cried tears of joy. This baby was not just ours. It was a symbol of a new family built on love. Brooklyn Stone Jr.? Alexander joked. "No," I said, laughing. Emma Stone. Inspired by Maria's real name, Emanella. In the 7th month, the documentary Rejected: The Brooklyn Stone Story was released. It aired on HBO in 8 episodes. It wasn't just my story, but the stories of 20 different families who had gone through similar experiences. The documentary won an Emmy Award, but the most rewarding moment was the audience response. Thousands of young people sent messages saying, "Your story changed me, you gave me courage, and I don't need anyone anymore." In the 8th month, Emma was born. 3.2 kilograms, healthy and beautiful. At the moment of birth, Alexander cried. I cried. Maria cried. "Ecco la nuova famiglia," said Maria, holding Emma. "Here's the new family." When Emma was 3 months old, an unexpected thing happened. My mother was hospitalized. She had a heart attack. Madison called me 8 months later. "Brooklyn, please. Mom is dying. She's saying your name. She wants to see her granddaughter." This dilemma was very difficult for me. Alexander had said the decision is yours. But remember, you owe no one anything. In the end, I decided to go, but on my own terms with Alexander and Emma. When we arrived at the hospital, my mother was very weak in bed. She started crying when she saw me. "Brooklyn, you look so beautiful. And is that Emma?" "Yes, Mom, this is Emma Stone, your daughter." "Stone," she said. recognizing my name. You really gave up being a Davis. Yes, Mom, I'm Brooklyn Stone now. We didn't speak for a long time. Then my mother spoke in a strained voice. Brooklyn, I made such big mistakes. Such big mistakes. You were my strongest child, but I didn't see it. I know, Mom. Can you forgive me? I had been thinking about that question for months. My answer was ready. Mom, I forgave you a long time ago. Anger wasn't consuming me. It wasn't consuming you. But that doesn't mean we're going back to the way things were. I understand, she said, tears streaming down her face. But can I see Emma? Sometimes? If you'll let me? We had discussed this with Alexander. Our decision was made. Mom, as Emma grows up, it will be her decision. If she wants to get to know you, I won't stand in her way, but I won't force anything either. Thank you, Brooklyn. This is more than I deserve. This is your last chance, Mom. Your relationship with Emma will be on our terms, mine and Alexander's. My mother nodded, too weak to speak anymore. As I left the hospital, I felt nothing. No anger, no hatred, no longing, just peace. In the 9th month, my mother recovered and was discharged from the hospital. She came to see Emma from time to time, but she was very careful. She wasn't the same mother I used to know. She was more humble, more attentive. Madison was trying to rebuild her life. She had started a non-profit organization called Second Chance Foundation. It helped women who had been rejected by their families. Brooklyn, she said one day on the phone. You were right. Our family dynamics were toxic. I was a victim too, just not as strong as you. Madison, if you're really changing, I appreciate it, but do it for yourself, not for me. Marcus, meanwhile, was slowly getting back on his feet. After the family business collapsed, he started working as a junior associate at another firm. He had to swallow his pride. My father was in prison and never tried to contact me. His pride remained intact until the very end. A year later, we threw a big party for Emma's first birthday. It was a celebration for 100 people in Stellar's garden. Alexander's family, my chosen family, academy alumni, studio employees. As Emma blew out the candles, with my help, of course, I asked her, "What did you wish for?" Of course, she couldn't answer, but she smiled as if she understood. In that moment, I realized that the real victory was here, in my daughter growing up without fear, in unconditional love. Today, 3 years later, my life isn't perfect, but it's authentic. Emma is 2 years old and has started talking. One of her first words wasn't mama but chef, because she spends so much time at Stellar. Alexander's studio has expanded to 3 branches. Stellar is now a 7-location restaurant chain. Over 800 chefs have graduated from the Brooklyn Stone Culinary Academy. But my greatest achievement is building a happy family. Alexander, Emma, and I. A family built on real love. My relationship with my mother is limited, but respectful. I occasionally talk to Madison, and I even became a sponsor for the Second Chance Foundation. I have no contact with Marcus or my father. And that's okay with me, because family isn't about blood, it's about love and respect. Last week, while cooking with Emma in the kitchen, I was telling her about the Italian recipes Maria taught me. She was kneading the dough with her little hands, her eyes sparkling. "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a chef," she said in her 2-year-old voice. "Whatever you want to be, Emma, I'll support you." Really? Absolutely, because you're my daughter and I care about your dreams. Those words were the greatest gift I've ever given my daughter, words I've never heard myself. When Alexander comes home from work in the evening, the 3 of us eat dinner together. We chat, laugh, and make plans. These ordinary moments are my greatest victories. Because I am Brooklyn Stone, 31 years old, a successful chef, a career woman, a wife, and a mother. A woman who charts her own path, doesn't depend on anyone, and lives on her own terms. And the best part of this story, this is just the beginning. Last night, as I was putting Emma to bed, she said to me, "Mom, you're the strongest woman." "Why do you think that, Emma?" "Because you never gave up," Papa told me. Alexander had told her my story in a way she could understand, how I kept going when faced with challenges, how I made my dreams come true. "You'll be strong too, Emma, because you're growing up knowing you're loved." Tonight, lying in bed next to Alexander, I think about the past 13 years. When I left home at 18, I had no idea I'd end up living a life I could never have imagined. Back then, I just wanted to be a chef. Now I own 7 restaurants. I'm the founder of a culinary academy, a documentary star, happily married, and most importantly, I'm living the authentic life I chose for myself. My father's words, "You'll never make it," now sound ironic to me. I didn't just succeed, I achieved the success I defined for myself. Because true victory isn't about revenge. True victory is about staying true to yourself. And I, Brooklyn Stone, will stay true to myself until the very end.